All right, let's get right to our roundtable. As usual, we have brought together some of the best and brightest. Here's Glenna to tell you.
Thanks, Johnny. Tim Padgett is the Americas correspondent for WLRN, Miami Herald News. He covers Latin America and the Caribbean. Marilee Cancio is a Miami-based attorney, an active member of the Republican Party. And H.T. Smith, who we just learned is now on Facebook, is a veteran Miami attorney and law professor at Florida International University. Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Thanks. Welcome.
Good morning. Great
wow.
to have you come in.
Thank you.
All right, so we just had 5 of the candidates in Senate District 40. And Marilee, did you see, I mean, I will grant you, should have been longer, but at least we got them on. Got some major points from each of them. Do you think that anyone did particularly well, particularly badly?
No, I wish they had had more time to express their
Me too.
positions. I thought it was great to have them here.
Yeah, especially with regard to the issue of transportation, which is a critical issue, especially for that district.
Yeah.
And I travel on 836 and the Turnpike all the time, and we definitely need a plan for developing that area so it can, it's landlocked and it has to be dealt with. I would hope that you invite them back again, or at least invite them back when we have the September 26th.
We will certainly have people back to talk about traffic. It is a huge issue. Tim, what did you think?
Well, I was most impressed by how they engaged education. My wife, who was a teacher, who was just sitting in the green room there watching them, I think she was very engaged by what both sides, and I think what was particularly interesting was how both Republicans and Democrats seemed very disdainful of this bill, particularly the secrecy with which it was just sort of railroaded through, et cetera. And I think when you've got that kind of bipartisan discontent with the way education policy is being conducted up in Tallahassee, that's important.
I agree. I think Pepe Diaz said, yeah, I voted for it, but he didn't sound terribly enthusiastic about a lot of that bill.
He seemed like he was defending it.
Yes. And there were problems with both the process and the content. I love these trains because there's something on almost every train that somebody's going to like.
Well, that's why they are trained.
Exactly.
They pack them with the good and the bad so that people just can't not vote for it and then face their constituents.
And the tone of this campaign, I mean, look, we all know that politics is a contact sport, especially in South Florida, but this has been, Marilee, this has really been almost offensive at many points.
It has been, Michael, and I think the voters are tired of the negativity and they would like to hear proposals for solutions for their problems. They, when they receive a mailer every single day, I don't think that's effective anymore.
And that's why I think these type of forums are extremely important, where you force the candidates to talk about the issues that are important to the people and they can hear for themselves and make value judgments. But the number one thing a politician wants to do is win. And we have got to begin to throw some of these rascals out who are involved in negative campaigning.
But isn't that everybody?
Well, we've got to be, it's not the same degree with everybody. And I think we've got to begin to say, as people, as Marilee said, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. Enough.
Well, in particular, I don't think either of the Democratic candidates helped themselves just now with so much of the focus on the PAC mudslinging, et cetera. And I say that because there's a crucial element to this election that I think often gets overlooked, is that you've got on the Democratic side 2 non-Cuban candidates, Ms. Logan, a Nicaraguan, and a Tadeo, a Colombian American, and that's very important in the sense that I think you see a lot of the non-Cuban population in South Florida right now making a run to supplant the Cuban-American hegemony in districts like this. We saw it last year when Robert Asensio, a Puerto Rican, defeated a Cuban in District 118, and I think that was a very significant development.
Well, that's an interesting point because District 40 is overwhelmingly Hispanic, not necessarily Cuban Hispanic.
Right. But you're seeing in districts like that the demographic changing dramatically. But that change in demographics always doesn't keep up, the political change always doesn't keep up with the demographic change.
But I find that disgraceful that, someone's heritage is something to be discussed. Even in another district, they were attacking another candidate because he was not Cuban. I'm the only Cuban in this race, and he's half Cuban. I find that disgraceful. And I think the voters are smarter than that.
And that's such a good point. And in South Florida, in elections and in every issue, doesn't it seem like everything splits into black, white, Hispanic?
Absolutely, and I think those of us who have a microphone, small, large, need to speak out against that and make us focus on the future. What have you done for me lately? What are you going to do for me in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Marley, that we shouldn't focus just on that ethnic background. But when we talk about the Hispanic vote in South Florida, it's a very obvious story that the non-Cuban population has been chafing somewhat under the hegemony of the Cuban-American political dominance for years.
All right, let's go to change directions here. I want to talk a little bit about Venezuela. There is an important election. Thousands of Venezuelans in our community, maybe 80 to 100,000, are going to vote here at 8 locations today. Tim, you are the resident expert here. I mean, you are the America's correspondent at WLRN Miami Herald News. Explain, what is the Consulta Popular, which is the Spanish name for what's going on today?
Well, what they're trying to do, both in Venezuela and in expat communities such as here in South Florida, New York, Madrid, Europe, all over the world, is they're trying to demonstrate what should have been done in the first place in Venezuela. The president down there, the socialist president Nicolás Maduro, wants to rewrite the Constitution,
Right.
which would essentially, he would do it in a way that would give him, make it more dictatorial.
Right.
What he's doing, though, is he's carrying out that project without consulting voters in Venezuela, which the current constitution mandates that he do. So what voters here and in Venezuela in the opposition are doing is simply showing that we're going to take that step, and we're going to show you that we don't want you to rewrite the Constitution.
But what they're doing is they've been taking steps with the outcry in the streets. So in a practical sense, does this matter?
Oh, yes. Oh, go
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, it won't matter to the government in
the
Venezuela.
outcome of the voting today, because
Right.
they're having their election next Sunday.
Right, but here's where it does matter. That what they want is for the international community to see an overwhelming outcry on the part of Venezuela. Look, let's face it, almost 90% of the Venezuelan population is against the current regime in Venezuela. So what they want is for the international community to see this outcry so that it will lean on the Maduro regime harder.
There are 3 questions in this referendum that the voters have to mark yes. There's 3 questions. And so even what Maduro is trying to say to the people, even the poor people, some that perhaps don't know how to read and write well, is say, oh, just write no, just answer no, because they think, well, I'm against Maduro, so it's no. So they need to answer yes. If they receive over 30% support for this referendum, it should be binding, even though that this voting process, it's not part of the election, the Venezuelan Election Commission. This should be a clear message to the international community. There's several former presidents, former president of Mexico, former president of Costa Rica that are in Venezuela watching these elections.
The election.
And Colombia. This is right out of Chavez's playbook in 1999.
It's their constitution, his
That's what
constitution.
he
Well,
did.
it's a
And-
slow motion golpe de Estado, a coup d'etat, which
no
is
doubt
going
about
on.
it. And what he did is July 30th is when the election is to pick.
Change the Constitution.
Change the
Right.
Constitution.
Right.
Eliminate Congress.
rewrite it,
right, but to select 527 people to serve on what would be in Florida a Constitution Revision Commission, and to make a bigger imbalance in terms of power, to take power from the
Basically,
National Assembly,
Yeah.
give more to the executive and the judiciary
All right,
branches.
hold on to your thoughts, gang. We're going to be right back. Hold on. Welcome back. We are in the midst of the roundtable with Tim Paget from WLRN Miami Herald News, Marley Cuncio, H.T. Smith. H.T., this week there were these stunning revelations, thanks to the New York Times mainly, that Donald Trump Jr. had a meeting in June of 2016 with this Russian lawyer and then a Russian military operative. I guess the question is, was he supremely naive and innocent or calculating, and how serious is this?
Well, we won't know what he was until we find out everything that happened. But clearly, what he did was wrong. I don't know whether it's illegal or not. But you know, when you get an email that says we have a lawyer from the Russian government who wants to help your father become president of the United States, bell should go off. But if they didn't go off then, when it was announced in October that the Russian government had hacked our election and was meddling in the election, someone should have picked up the telephone and called. Paul Manafort should have told him if he didn't know. Jared Kushner should have told him if he didn't know. And his father should have told him if he knew.
Right.
I'm going to let that sink in.
Yeah. Was this a smoking gun?
There have been so many smoking guns that we're tired of all the smoke in the room. Someone said more smoke than Chicken Chung movie.
Yes, Cheech and Chong.
Yeah, no. So, look, this woman was in this country under a special parole that received through Loretta Lynch. She's a friend of the Democrats, so why is she trying to help in any way Trump back in June of 2016? Mistakes certainly were made. Hindsight is 2020. This should have been disclosed. But when you have 8 people in the room, you know, a meeting that was set up by an entertainer.
Only later that we found out there were 8 people in the room. First there were 4 people in the room. Then, you know.
Drip.
I mean, that's the point.
That's why not just come out and say something that happened and explain what happened when you try to cover or avoid.
Well, Don Jr. issued publicized all the email strings regarding this meeting.
He did because the New York Times said we're about to release him.
Right.
And so his lawyer was smart to tell him, get out in front of the story. But if you're going to get out in the front of the story, notice the oath that you take. It doesn't say, I swear to tell the truth. It says, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And Don Jr., it's a public citizen. He can meet with whoever he wants. He's not part of the administration in any way.
Yeah, but he was deeply involved in the campaign, and a month later, he said he hadn't met any Russians, and it was absurd and offensive that he hadn't even been asked about it.
But
I mean, he has not been forthcoming.
It's the chronology that bothers me more than anything. The fact that this meeting was held, in just a matter of weeks before Trump, during the campaign, President Trump came out and said, in just a few days, we're going to have some really damning information about Hillary Clinton. It's just really beyond belief for me to think that those weren't connected.
All right, I don't want to look like this is piling on, but I want to play a little video and sound from the President and Melania Trump in Paris when they arrived for Bastille Day. There's just an incident here that is just, it deserves commenting on. So if you can, Chris, our director, if you could roll that video. Well, you can't really hear it, but this is the moment where Donald Trump, upon meeting Mrs. Macron for the first time, said, "Wow, you're in really great shape." And
you know, Michael, I knew you were going to talk about this. I just knew you were, and I was ready for an answer to that.
Well, then go ahead.
Because the first time,
this is just totally inappropriate. I mean, you're in a public space, the president of,
Go Mary Lee, go Mary Lee.
But I'll tell you, the first time that I met President Trump, I was with my father. And when he looked at me and he met my dad, he says, now I know where the good looks come from. So he was, doing it to me and to my dad because he's a salesman. When you meet him in person, he's a nice guy. Like, he's a people's person.
I'd like to take a poll.
He's politically correct.
I want to take a poll of the men at the table. Raise your hand. Have you ever told someone in a professional workplace who is female that she is beautiful, in good shape, she looks good today? Yes or no? Raise your hand.
I talked about clothing, but not the looks. Yeah, that's a beautiful dress.
I don't like to get slapped. I have not.
Whether I have or not, I am really not going to answer because it's not relevant. We're talking about the President of the United States on official meeting, with the president of an ally, and he makes this comment.
What strikes me most is, since we're talking about Venezuela also today, you know who else used to get under the spotlight very, very hard for these kinds of, I don't know if you want to call them faux pas or whatever, in international meetings like this was Hugo Chavez.
Well, he was a terrific offender on that score.
And George Bush, who gave a massage
Yes.
We are out of time.
Let's go talk about Biden, too, and the little massages he gave.
Yes, Biden, too.
All right, hold on.
We're out of time.
Thank you. There are big changes at the University of Miami's think tank on Cuba. Its new director is going to be here next to explain what's going on.
And you have a nice towel.
Isn't he handsome?
Yes, and he's handsome.